Tom Homan, Fox News contributor and former acting ICE director, is with me on set because I'm on special assignment in D.C., so I get to see you in person. And it feels like we're still right next to the border, though. Like, you don't have to be there to see it. We're not far from the White House. Have they blocked their windows?
You know, the border, every month, the numbers keep going up. And the secretary, they talked about the secretary making another trip to the southwest border. For once, why don't he tell the 20,000 men and women of the Border Patrol what the plan is? What's the strategy to secure the border? Because not once in any of his visits has he told the men and women wearing the green, putting their lives on line every day, what the plan is. They simply want to know what the plan is.
You know, I mentioned that you can see the problems from here in Washington, D.C., because people feel it. They're talking about it now. It's starting to show up in the polling that people say that they're concerned about this in a top 5 stance next to the economy and the other crises that we have right now. Talk to me about how the legality can help out what's happening. These judges are taking another look. We saw a stay temporary on Title 42 to get us past May 23rd, for example.
Look, as long as the Democrats control Congress, that's all we have, right? I've written more affidavits for the state of Texas, state of Florida, suing this president than I did as a special agent in 34 years. And we're 4-0, so we're going to keep suing them. So look, I think the judge will uphold Title 42, but people need to understand, even with Title 42 in place, the numbers so far this year are going to blow last year's numbers out of the water, and last year's were historic.
So let's talk about why that happens immediately, even before Title 42. You told me something off camera, and I want to bring it into this on-camera conversation now, that Title 42 just recently wasn't being applied the way it was supposed to be anyway, that we already saw an encroachment toward what Democrats say they want.
Exactly. Title 42 in the Trump administration, everybody was expelled for the pandemic. Under the Biden administration, from day one, most families weren't expelled. 85% of families were let in. Unaccompanied children, they were all let in. And many single adults who didn't speak Spanish and couldn't be returned to Mexico were brought in. So they've never done Title 42 at the level the Trump administration has done. And now they've been ordered by the courts to reinstate the remain in Mexico. The secretary has yet to do it. They're running at like 5% what the Trump administration did. So I think the federal court needs to call Mayorkas in, hold them in contempt of court. Because if they put the Remain in Mexico program back in as a federal judge ordered, that will give the Border Patrol a lot of relief on the border because they're overwhelmed.
Hold Mayorkas in contempt of court. We've seen him sit in that hot seat. The last time we saw him was the same exact day that the DHS, with him leading it, rolled out the Disinformation Governance Board. You can't even make that up. All right, I want to get to this. The president has not visited the border since taking office. Well, there it is. A new poll shows 34% of people approve of the president's handling of immigration and border security. 58% disapprove. And a recent Fox News poll shows 71% of our voters say they are extremely or very concerned about illegal immigration. 63% want Title 42 restrictions to stay in place. And some of that, when you drill down into the polling, by the way, Tom, some of that is because there's no plan in place to deal with the surge that's coming for a whole host of reasons. It's warmer weather. It's something that they can cross very easily. We don't have enough of everything that we need.
I think the number would be much higher than 63% if people understood exactly what's going on. This network is the only network even covering the southern border. I don't care what your position that illegal immigration is. When the Border Patrol was so overwhelmed that last month they got 67,000 gotaways, over 700,000 gotaways since he became president. We don't know who they are, but we know they come from 161 different countries. We know that some of those countries sponsor terrorism. We know the Border Patrol's already arrested 42 people on the terror screening database. So here's the problem. How many of the 700,000 were on the terror screening database? So regardless what your position on illegal immigration is, this has become a national security issue.
Is that knowable?
Pardon me?
Is that knowable by this administration? Because, you know, the numbers keep changing. First, they were just a couple dozen. Now it's many more than that who we know now is potential terrorists and on that list.
Look, it's just not terrorists either, Harris. You're talking about criminals. Border Patrol's already arrested over 20,000 convicted criminals. So how many of 700,000 where criminals didn't get arrested? But most importantly, let's remember the fentanyl overdose is record high. It's not a coincidence that 50 to 70% of the Border Patrol is off the line because they're taking care of this humanitarian crisis. Fentanyl is pouring across the border, killing Americans.
This has got to be quick, but I know have led so many men and women who want to do their jobs at the border. They're very dedicated. And I mentioned we don't have enough of what we need. Do people want to be border agents right now?
You know, the men and women of the border are 20,000 American patriots. I just met with a bunch of them a few days ago. Their morale's in the tank, but they continue to put that uniform on, put their lives on the line, but their morale is not existent. They feel they've been abandoned by the President of the United States and the Secretary of Homeland Security.
He needs to go down there. Tom Homan, thank you
Thanks
for being
having
with me today.